Hello guys, another video because I don't trust the internet here, so can't do the live stream. Sorry for that. We'll go back to that hopefully in a week or two. Until then, it's just gonna be videos, which I think do the job anyway. So yeah. Before we start, shout out to FTX for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. As always, links to them and their stuff is in the description. So yeah, what has changed since last week? The answer is pretty much nothing. High time frame wise, we're still ranging between a support in the 30Ks and resistance in the 60K on a macro level, right? So got rejected at 60K here, got rejected at 60K here, had support at 30K here, are having support at 30K-ish or like 35K here as well. So nothing on the high time frames has changed. A few people have been like talking about, oh, so much volatility now. It's on the low time frame. There is some volatility, but yeah, it's just tiny moves in the grand scheme of things. The weekly has had some movement this week in comparison to before. That said, like the last 3 weeks have been pretty much Wick City, wicking in every direction. And what's basically been happening is that price has been poking into the support, right, into this higher low area, and has been kind of getting absorbed. So we've been seeing some buying, nothing major, but not enough selling to kind of poke through, right? In my opinion, if this isn't the bottom, there's a good chance that 34K won't hold either. So what that means basically is if we lose the 37 to like 36K support, I think there's a good chance that we're just going to make new lows and then either just spring back up or continue down. But as long as we have this support in place, there's some hope. And I mean, the hope that we're seeing kind of the hope in the market right now, which is like this current bounce. And there's not really that much resistance either, right? Like the support is really, really shitty because it's been tested so many times, but the resistance isn't that much better given that we've tested it once and twice. So at least something, even though I'm not really excited looking at this. This just looks like it's grinding into support. We're getting a weak bounce that gets a bunch of people excited and nothing more so far anyway. That's kind of my gut feeling. But yeah, support's holding, so that's nice. But there's nothing major happening here either. On the daily time frame, there's a little bit more action. And this is where the people that talk about volatility do their business, I guess, or like even on the lower time frames, like on the 1 hour and below. And we talked about this trend line last week, and you can see how it's been doing its job pretty well. Price bounced every time it hit it. Now, last week, we actually lost it for a little bit and then reclaimed it immediately, which usually when you see this kind of stuff, right? Because everyone is watching this trend line. When you see this for something that everyone is watching, be it a horizontal or a trend line, it's usually like a good indication that you're going to get at least like a day or two of upside. And that's what we've been having. People are just going to assume this is a spring, basically. So they think, okay, close below it, everyone that was watching it is out of the market because they closed their position on invalidation, as in the close below, and now we're just heading up, right? And I mean, that's fair. The problem that I have with it right now is that we've been basically grinding into this diagonal the same way that we've been grinding into the monthly support, right? So if you remember the monthly support, 3 tests, the same with the weekly actually, 3 tests or 4 tests now. And that's the same kind of thing with this trend line. So you have a bunch of tests here, you have one here, you have one here, you have a loss and reclaim here. So there's a good chance that if we should retest this trend line again, it's not going to hold. So if you're bullish and you took a trade I think this is like a decent invalidation below 38K, because that's basically where we poke below the trend line. And if we lose that again, I don't necessarily think that the daily support down here is going to do too much. Could be me just hoping for volatility, because I mean this is still support, right? But for me, it's just, I'd be surprised if it did what it's been doing again. But no guarantees, obviously. There are never guarantees in the market. So yeah, that's that. We are grinding, kind of. You can see how we're grinding into resistance, and if we get back up there, there's a good chance that we actually break out, right? So this is basically the most important step of this rally, even though it doesn't seem like it, because so far in the last 2 weeks, basically, we've been making lower highs, right? And if this is broken, we head back to 44.8. That's been tested so many times that I'd be surprised if it held, and then we can have like a nice pop towards 51K. But yeah, we're not there yet. So far, it's just in the middle of the range doing not much at all, and people are getting excited. But I mean, people getting excited isn't a bad thing per se, as long as they don't open up a bunch of leveraged long positions in a market that's otherwise dead, right? So that's something that you can be watching. If we get like a bunch of degens basically betting on price going up again, there's a good chance that it just repeats what it's done in the last few weeks. So yeah, the update for Bitcoin is basically nothing much has happened, but it's looking at least a little bit better. That said, it's a little bit heavy on support. So there's like still, there's a bunch of bullish points, there's a bunch of bearish points. Nothing too exciting, right? If you want to do business, you usually want to have everything align. Right now, that's not necessarily the case. So that's kind of where we are with Bitcoin. With regards to ETH, ETH kind of looks like a worse Bitcoin, but it's been showing at least some strength today and yesterday. So if you look at the high time frames, I mean, I talked about it last week. Just going to do it like briefly again. Basically broke down, retested, bearishly retested 3K, and then just went back down again. Basically, what's happening right now is it's trying to put in like a double bottom. And if we go back above 3K, that would actually start looking much, much better, right? Because then you have at least some indication that there's strength in the market. Right now, it's basically just you have 5 candles that to the downside that are red, and then you have 1 green candle, and people get excited again. But I mean, at least it's in a technical important area because we haven't made a new low. And as long as that holds, I mean, maybe we go up. But this is like one of the ones that is much, much less clear than Bitcoin is, right? Bitcoin, you have like a clear invalidation, you have a clear trade setup. ETH, not so much. That's why I'd personally stay away. But there's obviously more gains to be made on ETH, if you're right, than on Bitcoin. And on ETH what's been happening is basically we've been rejected by this high, this 0.084 level, and have been heading straight down since. And we actually also broke the diagonal. Now, if you're an ETH bull, you can hope that this is the shakeout that I showed you earlier on Bitcoin, right? As in, we go back above the trend line and then moon it, which I think I would actually not have a problem with that argument if we manage to make it back above the trend line, right? Because there's really only one obstacle in the way, and that is 0.077. If that goes, the sky's the limit. So if you're an ETH bull, you can kind of keep watching that trend line. If it goes back above the trend line and manages to kind of reclaim 0.077, that's a strong indication that it just wants to go up. I'm not entirely sold, but it's at least not dumping right now, which is, I mean, at least something given the history of the last few weeks. I mean, it's been 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 weeks of just straight up walking down slowly. And I hate buying bleeds. I don't know if I've talked about it before. Probably have. I think I've talked about everything that that I've ever thought. But in general, in crypto, when you have like a bleed, right? Most of the time, let me actually draw this out. Most of the time, when you have a bleed, the floor just falls out and then it goes up, right? In this case, it hasn't done so. And there are exceptions, obviously, there's always exceptions. But for me, it's really tough to buy bleeds because you know that there's a bunch of people that bought this that just hold on, hoping it's going to turn around. And yeah, they only get really shaken out by a massive drop, basically. But there's a bunch of ETH news coming out soon. Supply reduction, all that kind of stuff that I don't want to go too deep into. So there's at least something in the pipeline that could be a bullish catalyst. And ETH has been performing amazingly against against other altcoins, right? If you just check Sol ETH, for example, that's been down only, right? And you can check ETH against almost anything. And yeah, ETH just been outperforming. Even like ETH has been going down, obviously, but it's been outperforming the other altcoins by quite a bit, which is a decent sign, right? You kind of like ETH has not been weak on the upside. Obviously, hasn't performed as well as like I showed just now, Solana and a bunch of the others, but it's still like it's outperformed Bitcoin the entire way up. And if it's now outperforming the other altcoins on the way down, it's at least something, and that shows some strength. So not necessarily the place that you want to short at. I think there's a bunch of altcoins that are much better for that. You can just basically take your pick. I've talked about Dogecoin before. I've been talking about it for weeks now, like saying that this is just going to full retrace. And I mean, it's down against Bitcoin. Yeah, almost 80%, and it's going to go down more. Even if there's going to be like a relief bounce at some point, this is going to, in my opinion, just full retrace. So if you're trading pairs, Dogecoin would be one that is almost certainly going to underperform ETH, for example. So you don't even have to be bearish altcoins in general. You can just say, okay, I'm betting on Dogecoin or like other coins to be weaker than ETH. And that way you're not really exposed to the altcoin market in a short position. You're just making bets on which coin is going to be performing better, right? It's one of my favorite ways to trade, by just picking the stronger ones, right? And seeing the trash go down and your coins, like sometimes I could see Dogecoin go down and ETH go up, and that's a good feeling, you know. Not necessarily saying you should be market shorting Doge right now. It's down 80%, and there could be a relief bounce. But if there's a relief bounce, I'm almost certain that that's going to be heavily shorted, just because everyone knows that this is, this is just going to go back down again. Yeah, that's that. With regards to the other altcoins, I don't think there's too much to talk about. The older coins are obviously not interesting. I mean, Litecoin, good old Litecoin, just making new lows. And XRP had like a little bit of a pump, but nothing major. Bitcoin Cash, obviously not. Like all of these are outdated. And then even the newer ones, like I showed you earlier, Solana, for example, look fucking terrible to me. It's very, like, it's down a lot, and it's kind of grinding. So what happens with altcoins sometimes is that they bleed, then they drop big time, and then they start grinding a little bit, and then they get a big pop. And I could see that happen with like a bunch of them, but that pop is usually used for the last people that just didn't get the memo on the way down to exit, right? So even if this pops, I think the run of 2021 is basically done, and it's going to take a while for this to kind of repair the chart take some sideways, whatever. And that's pretty much everything, really. Even like the darlings, the trades that pretty much the entirety of CT took. Like for example AVAX, I think that's the same. Obviously the chart's in much better shape, but still not looking good. I think there's a good chance that this goes lower as well. So yeah, pick your altcoins wisely. I think there's a bunch that look really bad. I mean, AVAX doesn't look as bad as Dogecoin does or as Solana does. But yeah, pick your altcoins wisely. Maybe hedge some of your altcoins by shorting others. That's kind of how I would do it. Right now, I don't have an altcoin position that I would want to have hedged. I'm just sitting there going surfing every day, basically. Don't really feel like trading this market too much, given that, like I said, there's not enough clarity to take a swing position. If anything, you can trade the low time frames, take it from level to level, but that's not really my style right now anyway. It used to be, didn't have a problem sitting there for 12 hours a day trading the low time frames. Nowadays, my time is more valuable to me than like the few percent here and there that you can make. And sometimes you just don't make money, right? And I'm not entirely sure if I could even make money on the low time frames in this environment, given that a lot of this is headline based, and I'm not really a headline based trader, right? It's not my expertise. So sometimes you just gotta know when to step off and let others do the trading. And then at some point it's gonna be easy again, right? We've had that before. Up only is something that is like very, very crypto native. So it's gonna come around again, and once it does, we'll all jump on the bus together and enjoy it. And just make sure to survive till then. Don't over leverage, especially don't over leverage shorts, because I think even if you think this is bear market, I don't know, I've seen too many bears get blown out shorting something that they're actually like bullish on. Like most of the people that are sitting in crypto are bullish crypto, and then the prices go down and they convince themselves that this is the best short, and then they just lose everything, right? So don't get too overly excited both ways, really, and wait for your chance is my best advice. And I know that that's boring, doesn't really help you to do anything, right? I mean, I'm basically saying do nothing, and that's not something anyone wants to hear, but it's just my opinion. But yeah, thanks for coming by, seeing the video, whatever. Like it if you liked it, because that's, I don't know, it does something, I guess. So I always appreciate that. And like I said, maybe next week we'll go back to the stream, because I do prefer it. I feel fucking nuts talking to a screen with no audience. But yeah, appreciate you coming by, and appreciate the sponsor of the video, which is FTX. And we'll see each other on Friday. Bye bye.